Hi, Javier, can you hear me?
Hey Luis, very good afternoon. I can hear you very well.
Good, good. Were you in the keynotes and the sessions beforehand?
Yeah, I was, but I was getting a bit worried with the timing. I said, "Oh, I suppose it's just running late or something." But
Yeah.
I was definitively enjoying. I very familiar faces. So good lineup of thought leaders. Well done.
Yeah, it's nice to see them all involved, and I think having that energy to kind of get everyone excited about this topic is needed, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's great, great. So, but I was like, okay, should I jump to my session? Like, I was in and out a couple of times, and just after 30 minutes passed, I said, okay, I will just wait here.
Yeah, just to play it safe, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how's things for you? How have
All good.
we
All
spoke
good.
a while ago, I think, properly on the project, but since then you've had more investment. There's been more big announcements. It's really exciting, actually.
It's the whole mess that we have in the planet with the pandemic is just sounds bad, but it's a tailwind for all this. All the change to renewable, all the necessity of storage. So we're getting. All the big companies are really falling down in a way. So it's not good that they all fall down at the same time, but it's good that they're a bit on the knees, many of them, and then they need to change. They need to jump into new tech and clean technology, and so in that sense, it's fantastic. And even though London looks very empty, we expect that it's gonna be way cleaner. We are probably done in 1 year what we expected to do in 3. And probably all these remote working, negotiating, closing deals, raising funds remotely is something nobody could expect without a closing dinner and negotiation nights and all that. So no, totally unnecessary.
Did you find that actually things are getting done quicker now, all over?
You get quite frustrated because you really cannot polish things in an interaction like this. Okay, let's grab a coffee or let's grab a glass of wine or so. No, this is so you need to be very, very focused, very say executive in all the discussions. But well, you save so much time, so you save so much, and so of course money also, and then you go to the point, and it's good. It's good. So it's very strange, as you know. It's very strange.
Yeah, no, we've done that, and actually, some of our clients in the venture capital world, we've started to hear them actually doing full transactions now without ever meeting a person. Actually getting to that point where you have the confidence to do everything completely remote. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really great.
Hi, Anna. How are you doing?
Hi.
Hello, Ina. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I think we'll be a little bit late to start. Have any of you got hard stops or anything at particular times?
Wait, sorry, I have another phone.
Yeah, I think you book a big enough slot that we should be good. But yeah, indeed, I think I need to start pushing back the next one. So
yeah, I think we'll have to push it back. I think it's just networking after this, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue, I think.
Okay.
And I think we can dive into this a little bit in the conversation, but how have you found the interest in long duration storage in the UK? Has it really changed in the last kind of few months?
Everything is a bit like a boiling pot of water. That things were warming up. Everything is warming up as we integrate more renewables. But now it's boiling. Everything is boiling in the sense that water is coming out of the pot. And well, obviously, I think it's a good analogy because indeed we're wasting a lot of wind power lately. 2020, the national grid was. I think was reporting over 250 million pounds of wasted electricity or wasted cost that we are paying as taxpayers to pay the wind and to pay the thermal to provide all these balances. So UK is a very pump hydro kind of grid, so like many other countries, and what we bring is the pump hydro capabilities, so the hydroelectric capabilities without the limitations of having to bring a lot of water. So making it industrial, so having long life and long duration and no degradation batteries We're in the middle of the storm. Sorry, Ina.
Sorry. When are we supposed to start?
We're meant to start 10 minutes ago, but I think the keynote has run over a little bit. Ina, have you got a particular hard stop at any time?
I have a call at 3:30.
Okay, that's fine. I think this session is meant to be 40 minutes anyway.
Okay.
So we should be good. You'll be allowed to disappear.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we were just saying about the capacity for long duration energy storage on the grid. The need is just skyrocketing today, and there just doesn't seem to be a demand, an able supply of technologies ready today to cater for that.
Yeah.
There's this huge amount going on chatting about hydrogen and everything around that, but in truth, it's still a long way down the line, right?
That's pretty far. But I mean, I tell you, we are having a technology that is being constructed now. We have a couple of plants running. It's deployable, but still, frankly, technology is ready, but the market is not ready. So the technology is, the demand is there, but there are no mechanisms to pay for long duration storage in a way. So it's pretty much the chicken and the egg. It's a total mess by our political governments globally. So, but you find places like Scotland that start to set it up well. California starts to have really decent schemes. For instance, Spain is getting a lot of this EU funding to decarbonize and all that. Is trying to dump it in getting infrastructure paid by the government, but this should be commercial, like batteries started to become, solar is, wind is. I am pretty optimistic that it is happening. It's happening way faster than we were envisioning a year and a half ago, but it's damn slow. It's really damn slow. So it's totally nuts that, you could really save billions per country if you just have the infrastructure, and that infrastructure you pay it back in less than 3 years. So it's an obvious value proposition. For companies like ours, it's a really easy, I will not say easy, but it's pretty smooth to get funding, to get hundreds of millions of money coming to the projects. But we should have hundreds of projects instead of dozens of projects, and the whole industry going into that direction instead of being paralyzed, because the industry is very much paralyzed by, nobody should invest in a gas-fired power plant. But today is the only thing that the grid is paying for. You can have your diesel tanks or your gas pipeline, and then you burn and you produce electricity as per demand. So, but everybody's aware, everybody gives good speeches. We're gonna do it. We have COP26 in Glasgow end of this year, so we are betting that we will have to make a lot of announcements. But the clock is ticking, and March is already here. So quarter one is going pretty quickly. So exciting. It's all pretty positive, the direction, but it's still moving very slow.
Yeah, it needs to move faster, right? I think it's a real problem with grid operators and the market in general. They've generally just been reactive to issues on the grid rather than being proactive and trying to repair. Just looking at Texas grid today and the issues they had,
absolutely,
it's just a perfect example of lack of preparation.
Exactly, but Texas is a great example. You said it very well, but it can happen tomorrow in London. It can happen in Paris. It can happen in Madrid. It can happen, and it will happen in Germany. And Germany is solving by burning more lignite or clean coal, as they call it. But it's not clean at all. So
it's a funny one. Well, I think we'll get started in a few minutes. Hopefully, we're still waiting on James to join, so we'll wait for him and then we'll get going.
Very good. So I will mute myself then and wait for it to get there. So.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, Luis, what's up?
Hey, Shao, how's it going?
Not too bad. Hi, Ina. Hi, Javier. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Great.
You know when we're starting?
Yeah. So I think you can share your audio and video because we already have another 10 people which are in the chat, and I bet that Robert will be finishing his conversation now. Exactly in 1 minute we can also start the conversation because I think that people will gradually will come, and I'll try even to join you at least for some of it.
Can you see my video works? No, right?
Can you repeat the question?
My video, can you see me? Because I don't.
No, we cannot. We can't, to be honest. So if you can try and open it or
it's
log
open.
in again.
I pressed open.
So maybe log out and log in again, or change the source of video. And let me find our missing link here. Okay. So I'll be back in a second.
That's good. Thanks, Shao.
חברותי מחדש, לא עובד לי הוידאו. 1 second, we'll try to fix it.
Normally the off and on is the simple fix on these things, right?
Do a restart. 1 second. איך עשית מקודם ריסטארט כזה? זה לא וידאו, זה share screen. הוידאו שלי דלוק, פשוט לא עובד. איך עשית מקודם חדש? לא, זה לא עובד. צריכה להתחבר מחדש או משהו. נדפק. Oh, now it's working.
Welcome.
There we go. All right. Well, James, hi.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. How you doing?
Great. I have a bit of a background, but I'll keep myself on mute. I'm not speaking.
Nice. Okay, appreciate it. Ashel, are we good to go now, or?
Yes, definitely. Let the party start in. And thank you all again for participating in this specific innovation session. Luis, with no further ado, take the lead, please.
Thanks, Ashel, and thanks everyone for joining this this discussion. We've got really excited to have this conversation with the people we've got here today. I think it's a really exciting opportunity to share best practices, achievements, and I guess probably most interestingly, some of the failures of some of the most exciting companies that are coming out of the UK and Israel in the clean tech community. So just to give you a bit of a background on me before we go around and introduce everyone. My name's Louis Brassington. I'm an energy analyst at a company called Clean Tech Group. So our job really, we're a research and consulting firm, but what we try to do is help corporates and investors engage external innovation opportunities. So our job is to scan the market on a daily basis, really see what's exciting on the early stage side of the market, and draw together insights and pull together research on the changing dynamics in the energy transition. So that's a little bit about me, but most importantly, maybe we'll just quickly go around and let these speakers introduce themselves. Javier, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Luis. I mean, I'm really glad to be in this event. I mean, it's really an honor. I'm heading a company called Highview Power. We are a technology company doing long duration technology for energy storage. So we can call it a pump hydro in a box. We're utilizing cryogenic technology to liquefy air, to store it in tanks and deliver back to the grid electricity, which is 100% renewable. So we are 17 years old as a company, and the last 2 years, as the market demand has boomed, we are developing projects globally. So from Australia to America, Africa, Middle East, Asia, and Europe, and well, excellent to be here. We have an enormous support from the UK government, and looking forward to my colleagues in the panel to discuss.
Yeah, thanks, Javier. And I guess you can't really call yourself a startup anymore, right? After so many years.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, I personally have been 17 years in a big corporate, and then I moved into Highview 2.5 years ago. And for me, I kind of moving into the smaller company world and make it really big, but big not in size, but in the impact that we are making. So it's very much it's a scale up and deliver kind of company.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm really excited to dive into the technology and some of the challenges around scaling up technology like that in the next 40 minutes or so. Maybe, Ina, we'll just let you introduce yourself quickly. That'd be great.
Yeah, of course. I'm the founder and CEO of EcoWave Power. Our company developed a unique, innovative technology for generation of clean electricity from ocean and sea waves. We're currently operating a site in Gibraltar and finalizing the construction of our new grid-connected project, EWP EDF1, here in Israel. And we're currently holding more than 250 megawatts of projects in the pipeline, and are looking forward to spread our technology in different countries around the world, including the UK, which is a very interesting market for us.
Thanks, Ina. And yeah, wave technology is super interesting. I'll be super excited to dive into it a little bit more. James, why don't you finish us off?
Hi, everyone. James Johnston. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Piccolo. We're the UK's leading independent flexibility marketplace. This means we help distribution system operators, the companies that operate the distribution grid, to access flexibility, to manage the grids more effectively. Bring on all this cool technology that Robert was talking about in the previous session. So we're a UK-based company. I'd call ourselves a startup. We are 8 years old, but I think it's about the how you feel and how you perceive yourself. We're rapidly scaling up. We've just closed our Series A from Clean Growth Fund as well, so we're in a really interesting part of our journey too.
Awesome, thanks, James. So, as Robert touched on that last session, obviously there's a huge range of exciting applications coming to the market, electric vehicles being one of them. But there's ultimately no doubt that we need new technologies and new services to ultimately enable the adoption of those kind of solutions. As grids get more volatile, we're going to need long duration storage. We're going to need more alternative sources of renewables, and then ultimately software to try and bring all these things together. And so I think it's really great that we have you three here today to kind of talk through how hard it's been developing businesses in this space, despite there being a huge need for it. It's really interesting, and you look at other industries and there might not be such an actual market demand for these things, but they seem to scale quicker. Whereas clean tech, has really difficult challenges in the valleys of death, getting across the financing hurdles, getting the big incumbents on board with your idea is a real challenge. I want to dive into that a little bit today. So I guess I wanted to start on just talking a little bit about your business models, because I think as well as technology, that's a super important thing to consider when trying to successfully scale a business in this industry. Maybe, Javier, you can kick us off. Just talk a little bit about how you've structured your business model around your energy storage system and what you think the best approach is to developing a business model as the business grows.
Thank you for that, Luis. Indeed, when I was introducing, we were talking that the company is pretty historical, you would say already, with 17 years of life. But the company was developing the technology, getting it modular, getting it simplified, getting it deployable and commercial, and making it in a way, we call it a bit like the IKEA model. So getting it into boxes, deliverable to the place, really agnostic regarding the location, so locatable anywhere. And the business model that we kick off when the technology was ready to deploy and the market was ready to create enough demand and pay for the services that we provide has been to develop our own projects. So we have become a project development platform with our own proprietary technology. So we are identifying locations, identifying places in the grid that there are constraints. Very much as James was mentioning, lack of flexibility, congestion, a big download of renewables coming and growing, offshore wind in the UK, so are in Spain or remote places like Chilean mines and of course California grid, where there is in a way a ban of open cycle gas turbines of gas peakers. So you need to provide those services that make your technology be suitable for financing. I mean, at the end is what makes this technology be green from the environment perspective, but also green from the dollar perspective. I mean, how you can get the funding, the projects to go on to fit, as we always say. So that's our business model. The UK government has been supporting the company, over 20 million pounds of funding, but mostly for the pilot plants, and then the commercial demonstrator into the plant. And the first plant that we already started to construct in is a 300 megawatt hour, which is, just to give a number, is around over 100,000 people can be receiving power from this plant during 6 hours. So it's we call long duration when it starts to be 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours or beyond. And we got a funding support from the UK government of 10 million pounds. But said that, we're talking about projects over 100 million each of capex, and you need to have a very clear revenue stack of what different sources of payments you are getting for the services you give. As said before, it's like a pump hydro in a box, and you know the pump hydro were built in last century, so we need to make sure that the market mechanisms are in place to pay for what the technology that we deliver provides. So business developer with technology in our pocket. So that's the model.
Yeah, and it seems like one of the key challenges in this market is when you have a really capital-intensive technology, the investors getting involved in your business model need to be brought on early on, and they need to see the bankability actually of the long term and how actually that's going to turn into something down the line if they're going to pull this money up front. And I guess you've got a hardware business as well. How has your business model worked and been designed around the hardware challenges and the capital intensity challenges that something like a business like Ocean Power will face?
So our business model is basically building the power stations. Our preferred business model is building the actual power stations, holding them on the balance sheet of the company, and basically not selling the equipment in turnkey, but rather selling the electricity into the grid. We believe that this is a very viable and correct business model. We see the largest renewable energy corporations and companies in the world following such business model. The lifespan of the power station is about 25 years, so you're just producing stable electricity, sending it to the grid, and getting paid from the electrical company, the energy ministry, or whoever the client is that is purchasing the electricity. In higher risk markets, we might be doing some turnkey collaboration, or sometimes we do JV structure, joint ventures, like the one that we're doing with the EDF Renewables IL, a subsidiary of EDF, the French National Electrical Company, for our new EWP EDF1 project here in Israel, where we actually did the JV 50-50, and both parties are financing the installation. So, as I said, the preferred one is always to finance it ourselves and selling the electricity, but also we can work in turnkey or JV depending on the type of market and the type of conditions in such market.
That's interesting. And one thing I think you touched on is, we're working with people on the grids, and I think wherever you look in the world, it's a really challenging market. The operators and people involved in the grid operations ultimately are there to keep the lights on. And so a lot of the time they've just been very much operating a proactive form, really kind of making sure they react to things as they happen rather than taking a step back and actually doing a lot of the planning. I guess it's a little bit different for you, James, right? Running kind of a software service company, but how have you managed to develop a business model which kind of works around the limitations of these kind of big incumbent, slow-moving grid operators and distribution operators that have traditionally been quite slow to adopt new technologies and want to actually change?
Yeah, there's sort of two things I would highlight. The first thing is we think of our business model as very much a platform business model. It's about looking at the wider ecosystem that we're trying to build, and then that means what can we be offering for free for certain users to get them onto the platform, get them participating, get them transacting. What are services which are added value that we can build a kind of commercial proposition around and charge for, and what do we want to subsidize? That's part of the thinking when developing a platform business model. It's not just a sort of a cost base kind of thinking where this cost us X and we need to do X plus 10% or X plus 20%. It's more, what are the dynamics we want to create? And that's been really important for us in creating the market. So for at the moment, the marketplace is free for flex providers to join, to participate. But that's really the engine of growth. That's, it's only by them coming to the marketplace and participating that we can deliver value to our DSO clients. The second thing, which is really important that you touched upon, is partnership with some of our regulated clients. It's really important as the system is changing. We know it's an evolving scene. The requirements of our clients change based on the maturity of the market, and the challenges they're facing are slightly different every year. So there's a sort of we can't just develop our product and then say we found product market fit. We have to constantly be evolving the product. And the only way to do that is through partnership, through talking to our users and understanding. So I think the really important thing is having this sort of partnership approach with your users, with your clients, understand what their requirements are, and then think you always have to invest and continually invest in developing the platform.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that, Javier. And from the hardware perspective, how have you found this approach with partnership and really engaging with customers early on? Any experiences and any kind of stories you can give on challenging partnership stories that have happened for you guys in your kind of 10-year kind of timeline?
Absolutely, Luis. And following what James was saying about partnerships, I mean, partnerships are absolutely fundamental for our scale of company. I mean, as I said, I've been most of my career in large corporate with 20,000 people. That, I mean, you get 100 lawyers, you get 200 financial controllers helping you. So here is about setting up a network of people who are like-minded and are sharing the same vision and strategy. But I mean, somebody told me this expression that this is a lot about kissing frogs. I mean, you really need to be kissing frogs until somebody is becoming the prince or the princess, and you are, okay, this is the partner who really can join this venture, can join this mission. And I tell you, we have our biggest investor at Highview Power is a Japanese company called Sumitomo Foster Wheeler. They came in, I mean, and this is a funny one. I mean, they came in on 14th of February of 2020. So we closed the deal and signed and make all the. I was St. Valentine's, of course, just before the pandemic here in London. Last time I saw them physically, because we have been virtually constantly, but the world has gone upside down. And after Sumitomo came in, we got a lot of other people very interested, of course, following the inertia from a large company like Sumitomo. In this case, for Sumitomo Foster Wheeler. But of course, I'm not going to tell the names of other princes and princesses of frogs that we have been kissing before. But I can tell you, I mean, the lips were almost totally rotten until we found that one that is following us, giving us the muscle, the wings, the legs. But well, it's a very painful journey. But without that journey, it's no road to success. You need to find those partners.
Yeah, how have you found, this is I guess a question to all of you, how have you found building up these relationships with new partners, either new customers or existing supply chain channel partners over the last year with COVID? Has it got more streamlined? Has it got more difficult? What's the outtake there?
So maybe I'll take that. So basically, I agree with Javier. Partnerships are very, very important, of course. Especially when you're trying to develop a new industry, you can many times kind of piggyback on the experience of larger scale partners, gain from the technical experience, from their connection to suppliers. Sometimes they're bigger buyers of parts, so then you can also lower the cost of your equipment by maybe buying it through a larger party. We have two such partnerships, one, as I said, with EDF, another one that we recently announced with Meridian, which is the electrical company, the biggest electrical company in Australia and New Zealand. Again, as I said, I feel that these partnerships are very important. And how do we find them in the time of COVID? I think that COVID-19 in the short term was not very good for any business, because of course we can't travel and we don't work as usual. So it really disrupted all sorts of businesses. But I think that in the long run, it really put an important emphasis on the importance of climate change, renewable energy, impact investment. We're seeing the largest corporations in the world dedicating significant funds to kind of get out of COVID-19 in a green way. And I think that the fact that COVID-19 kind of stopped everything, the factory stops, the airplane stops, and the pollution went down, we finally got a glimpse of how the Venice canals look when they're clean. The NASA satellite first time could see the sky in China. So I think that people were actually feeling that as well. You could get up in the morning, go to your porch and breathe fresh air. So I do think that it really reinforced the importance of impact investment and renewable energy, especially as both in the individual level and in the corporate level, people understood how important it is to care about our future and the future of our children.
Yeah, I think you touched on a really important thing there, and that's these financing partnerships. And I imagine a lot of the companies listening in today will understand some of the challenges around getting the right finances on board. And there's a huge plethora of options, some kind of people to meet in that sense. I guess a follow-up question, and James, you've been around in the market for quite a while now as well. With this whole surge of ESG investors, and you mentioned you got investment from a fund which is backed by the UK government. Do you think the valleys of death in clean tech are easier to navigate today than they were, say, 5 years ago, with this new wave of investment coming in from different kinds of players internationally?
Annoyingly, I think the answer is it depends. But I suspect if you're building a business in one of the sort of hot topics, which at the moment I would perceive to be anything to do with electric vehicles, then you're going to actually find it quite easy to raise capital in the immediate term. I think when you're doing something which is in the wider area, but is potentially for, in our case, more linked to working with regulated market players like DSOs, there's, you need to go back. I think the valley of death question becomes much more important, because there's always been a lot of interest in flexibility markets in our company. But I think there's always a little bit of nervousness as well, that when you deal with regulated markets, that there's certain things outside the control of a startup. So you need to really be on top of your metrics, what your growth objectives are, and what your plans are, and show traction to get somewhere. So I think it's easier or harder depending on how hot your particular area you're in at the moment. But I would say that from our experience with investors, the most important things that they look for, paradoxically, is traction. And that's the classic chicken and egg issue, that you need a bit of more investment to get that traction, but that's what investors are looking for. So our particular journey, a really important part for us was innovation funding from UK government, and we're part of a EU Horizon project as well. And that for me is a really important stage, where you've got quite a lot to build out and to prove. It might take a bit of time, especially if you're working with regulated entities, and you actually need to build a big enough team to build some interesting stuff. So you can't just rely on angel investment to get you through. So the innovation funding is really key, and I think the UK does a really good job at that, and I would encourage other governments to make sure that they have good amount of money available for that as well. And then I think it's just about using that time wisely to show traction, to show that you've actually got something of interest, product market fit, and then you'll be able to find the sort of scaling up capital to get you past that valley of death.
And Javier, you mentioned that one of your investors that came on board last year was a Japanese conglomerate, right? Was that because you couldn't find any national investors, or you're really looking for international partners to scale up in different countries?
No, thank you for that, Luis. I mean, definitively we were looking everywhere. I mean, as I think James mentioned, that there is a lot of capital there. I mean, we are in the I mean, clean tech is in the center of the storm in the sense of, or in the stage in terms of attention. So we're looking, I can tell you, north, south, left, and right, and it was a kind of again talking about princes and princes. It was a kind of a contest of beauty and conditions, etc. So and some people were having a mortal kiss offer to us. I mean, we could bring you the funds, but after you get the funds, we're a hardware company, so we're building projects. So you can imagine, you get the funds, but you are exclusive with us for life. Anything that you do, you need to go through us. I mean, no, we need capital to fly, not capital to get stuck to the ground, and that's what we were looking for. And of course, it's the geographical split. I mean, we're an UK headquartered company. We have a big presence in the US. We have people in Spain. We have people in Chile. And we have people in Australia, down under, where it's a wonderful market. But we have a really clear gap in Asia and the eastern part of Asia. So Japanese company was making a lot of sense in terms of how to reach that market, how to make sure we get a partner who can also bring the technology in a market that we're not going to be able to attack in the coming future. So that was a bit the win-win. So we were giving them access to a technology that gives them a new open door to a new market, to a new demand that they have never been able to reach, and it's giving us access to a place like Japan, South Korea, some places in China, and that definitely we could not handle from our company. So it was those kind of partnerships that both Ina and James were telling. It's not only about the capital, it's about the smart capital. I mean, with the danger of being too arrogant, I mean, we could get the capital from from several investment entities from UK or the US, but it was just heavy capital that we needed, capital that ignite us a little bit and gives us firepower. I mean, we can use firepower only in this verbal expression, not anymore in the power generation business.
And what point in all your journeys did you start getting investors and corporates coming to you guys saying we want to get involved versus you guys having to go out and do the outreach?
Yeah. I mean, that's a wonderful one. I mean, as a technology platform, the technology was getting ready. We got a lot of what Ina and James were talking about, innovation funding coming into the company to fund the pilot. I mean, all the big corporates were paying attention to it. I was coming from a big corporation. Personally, I was the president of a Finnish company, Wärtsilä, in the energy business, and we were looking at investing into this company, into Highview, and it was like too early. And then, okay, this is happening now. So I jumped the fence to the purely startup or clean tech phase, and when these big shakes that Ina was mentioning about COVID-19, the full kind of crisis lockdown. I mean, now we are in the other side of the story that everybody's chasing us, everybody's looking at us, and we need to be very smart and not fall into the temptation of quick investment and quick partnering that is not going to be partnering in the long run. So, but you say when did it change? It has been the last couple of years, frankly. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. That this idea of not just chasing the quickest route to your next stage in the business is really important, and brings me to the conversation of this whole idea on accessing, finding different ways to access public markets as another financing route. And it's a fantastic route. And if you have the push from the public to get these technologies off the ground, I think it's a fantastic pathway. We've seen a clean tech group in the last year, this whole trend around SPACs, special acquisition companies, as a short way to get a lot of access to capital very quickly, really take off. And it's not, I don't see a day go past where I need to see another SPAC announcement from an EV company, a battery company, someone developing fuel cells. It's really going off, and some people are saying, it could be a bit of a bubble. A lot of companies are getting value too high at too early stage. I'd be interested to know your thoughts on the benefits and disadvantages of accessing a public market, from a hardware perspective, and experiences around that.
Listen, obviously, I think positively of accessing the public markets because our company is publicly traded on Nasdaq Stockholm, so I can't have any other type of thoughts. But basically, I think that specifically for renewable energy companies, or like you're saying, infrastructure companies, it's very correct to go to the public market even earlier in their journey. The reason for that is, for example, most of our agreements are with governments or municipalities or ports, public institution based. It's land concession agreements to build the power station. It's PPA, power purchase agreements to sell the electricity from the power stations. And I think that these kind of public authorities like governments and municipalities and ports, they prefer working with a publicly traded entity because of the transparency involved in being publicly traded. So I really think that since we went public in July 2019, we were able to finalize and secure much more new sites and new agreements, which we couldn't have done without the push of the public markets, both in terms of financial push and the push in terms of positioning the company. Recently, we announced also that we've submitted a confidential filing for uplisting the company to the Nasdaq US, which we're in the process of doing. And as mentioned, I really think that public markets are really correct for companies in our fields. I do think we need to choose the right markets for us, because there's many possibilities, of course, and for each company there might be a different market that is suitable for their specific needs and their specific stage in the company's lifespan. But in general, my view is positive.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. I'm just a little bit conscious of time, as I know we're closing up at 20 past to go to networking. There's some great questions here from the audience, so I would encourage everyone to respond, if possible, on the chat, or take it to the networking session afterwards. But I just wanted to quickly go around the table and hear like 1 or 2 minutes from each of you on if you had one piece of advice to companies starting out in the clean tech space, what would it be? Positive or whatever experiences you have would be really appreciated. James, why don't you kick us off?
Make sure you are doing it for the right reasons. If you're just trying to make a quick buck and get on the latest fad, then you won't necessarily last the hard yards that you need to go through in the clean tech space. If you're mission driven and it's not just about making money quick, but about having a big positive impact and making money, then I think that sets you off on the right footing.
Thanks, James. Yeah, making sure you're doing it for the right reasons, very, very important. Javier, any advice?
I mean, I need to sign down on what James just mentioned. I mean, it's a wonderful start, James. I mean, definitively making it for the right reason, having a vision, having a plan B, and having a plan C, and having a plan D, and well, be extremely persistent and strong-minded. So it's wonderful, but it's very painful. So nothing good happens without pain. That's it's really one of the biggest decisions one can make. So it's better to think it well, have that plan A, B, C, D, and again, as James mentioned, so it's right mission and be green for the environment and green for the money, because it's without funding and financial benefit, then it will never happen.
Thanks, Javier.
And yeah, maybe I'll finalize by agreeing with both James and Javier and just saying that I think passion is very, very important. And I always say that passion is the greatest renewable energy source. It never dies. It keeps renewing. So I think that definitely keep your passion up always. And in the end of the day, for innovative companies, clean tech companies, I think that, you know, when you're developing a new product, in any startup, not even in clean tech only, you hear a lot of no, you know, in your first steps. No, you're not ready. No, we don't think so. No, we don't believe. But in the end of the day, there's billions of people in the world, and in each step, you need only one of them to say yes. Only one. And that's a very encouraging thought to have, because, you know, no matter how many no's you hear, you always have the chance to do something that you really believe in.
Wow. Ina, thank you for that. Javier, James, like the last answers for the Luis questions were amazing. And as an energy tech entrepreneur myself, by the way, my name is Asher Lipman. I'm one of the co-founders of Ignite the Spark. I wanted to thank you all for those amazing answers and inspiring ones. And I can definitely relate to that. The amount of no's and the amount of wonders that you have, am I doing the right thing, is just immense. So it's definitely something that I'll take with me home when building up my next venture. And I hope that all of the audience that actually kept with us throughout this session will take with him home as well. I'm not a big fan of hard stops for the session. So even though networking has just started, people who wants to stay here for 2 or 3 more minutes and ask the panelists some questions, so go ahead. I just want to take the opportunity and to thank all 4 of you, and basically to all of the different participants that took part in this an hour and a half energy festival. We're trying to make it very concise on one hand, but as diverse so many people can come, meet. And the reason why we're doing it on Hopin is actually so people can actually engage with each other, and that's the point of networking, because I don't see myself on an airplane to London in the next few months, unfortunately. So that's basically it. Make sure to reach out to the people that you want to speak with, and to follow us, and even join another event that we're holding next week. And big thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much to the panel for joining us. That's a great conversation.
Thank you, everybody. It was a great fun and success.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye now.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Javier.
Bye-bye.
Take care.